Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. The skies are blue.
No, they are.
The birds are chirping.
It's like 10 degrees out. All the birds are dead.
Are you done? And it's spoiler season. I hope you're as excited as I am. Let's get right into it. Just like in Theros, the Born of the Gods pre-release brings with it 5 new hero cards to choose from. The main difference is that each comes with an ability that can only be activated if you exile the hero card itself. You only get one shot, so use it wisely. The General gives your creatures +1/+1 until end of turn and untaps them when you exile him. The Savant taps all creatures your opponents control, and they don't untap during their controller's next untap steps. The Tyrant gives your opponent's creatures -1/-1 until end of turn. The Warmonger, cool name, gives creatures you control +2/+0 and haste until end of turn. And finally, the Provider puts 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, and you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. That's a lot to get through. The week after pre-release, we have Launch Weekend. The card you'll get from that is called the Explorer. Simply, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Sweet. If you're wondering what you'll be up against during Game Day weekend, the challenge deck is Battle the Horde. This time you get to use 3 of your hero cards instead of only 2. You also get 3 turns to set up and start the offensive before the Horde deck starts to play. But then the Horde starts to fight back, sending Minotaurs to fight you. You win by milling out the Horde deck, which you can do just by dealing damage, and then killing off any Minotaurs still on the field. Win and you receive the Vanquisher. Your starting hand size is increased by 1, and your maximum hand size is increased by 1. These are both really interesting abilities. Should be awesome. Okay, on to proper spoilers. Here we go. The first spoiler we're going to look at is Ephara's Giant. For 5 mana, you get a 3/3 with a new keyword ability Tribute 2. This ability is similar to Monstrous in its use of +1/+1 counters. But here, an opponent decides whether or not the creature gets counters when it enters the battlefield. If they don't give you counters, the creature triggers another ability. When Ephara's Giant enters the battlefield, if the tribute wasn't paid, it deals 5 damage to each opponent. So basically it's a 5 mana 3/3 that lava axes something, or a 5 mana 5/5 that doesn't. This mechanic is pretty cool. It's always interesting to give your opponent the ability to decide their own fate. This won't see competitive play, but I could smash this into a limited deck for sure. Next, we have Seer. 1 colorless and 1 black for a 2/2. Fine so far. Here's another new keyword, Inspired. Whenever Seer becomes untapped, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to that card's converted mana cost. Wow! This is an interesting way to start spoiler season. That ability reads a whole lot like Dark Confidant. Granted, it's not him because you need to untap, but still, this ability in general is kinda bonkers. Amazing in aggressive black decks, I don't see a reason not to run him. Can you imagine Rakdos aggro with something like this? Gross. In case you forgot, by the way, this card is reprinted. As if it wasn't already easy enough to trigger Inspired, Springleaf Drum is back in action. To really explain the possible strength of this card, just think about its interaction with Seer. Yeah, I know. I'm honestly scared of this. If the meta allows an aggro deck with these cards to exist, be afraid. So very afraid. This next card is one I'm insanely excited about. Ephara, God of the Polis, is 2 colorless, 1 white, and 1 blue for a 6/5 legendary enchantment creature god. Our first minor god. Sweet. Indestructible just like the rest, with the same qualifier for being a creature. What's important to note is that the devotion requirement includes both colors and it only has to be 7 combined. You already have 2 with just Ephara. Now for the good part. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you had another creature enter the battlefield under your control last turn, draw a card. Blue-White Humans has seen a bit of play already. This gives it some real gas. Not only does this card create insane card advantage for aggressive human decks, it also gets to devotion without even thinking about it. Between cards like Fabled Hero and Detention Sphere, there's no doubt this will hit its requirement all the time. This is an amazing design for the minor gods. We knew they would be 2 colors, but I absolutely love how they implemented 2-color devotion. I can't wait to see the rest of them. Moving on, we have another Inspired card. While Oresco's Sun Guide is not as insane as Seer, the ability is amazing for limited play and can truly be defined as extremely annoying. A 2-mana 2/2, whenever this cannon taps, you gain 2 life. If your opponent has an empty board, this is a 4-point life swing every turn. That's pretty good for a 2-mana 2/2. Next, we have our first Bestow spoiler, Nyxborn Shieldmate, a 1-mana 1/2 with a bestow cost of 3. Pretty standard, but it's good to know we're going to see more bestow in Born of the Gods. This is a very strong mechanic, especially in Limited. Speaking of bestow, our next spoiler is Everflame Eidolon. This 2-mana 1/1 bestow creature has a pretty unique ability. It gives fire breathing either to itself or the creature it's enchanted onto. Again, pretty standard card, might see play in Limited, but at 1/1 that's kind of rough. Devotion is back in full swing with Sky Reaping. Yes, I know, name's awesome. This is a 2-mana sorcery that deals damage to each creature with flying equal to your devotion to green. This is pretty strong. If you have a couple of green creatures on the battlefield, this is basically a board wipe version of Plummet. Great sideboard card in Limited and possibly constructed depending on the meta. Much like Devotion and Bestow, Heroic is back as well. Ashiok's Adept is a 3-mana 1/3 wizard. Whenever you cast a spell that targets him, each opponent discards a card. This is okay. It's not the worst heroic creature I've ever seen, and I can see some value in Limited if you stick an Ordeal on him, but overall this probably isn't going to be something you're going to base a deck around. Born of the Gods also brings with it a new cycle of 5 enchantment creatures called Archetypes. Each archetype will do 2 things. The first one will grant an ability to your creatures, and the second one will take that same ability away from all of your opponent's creatures. The first example of this is Archetype of Imagination. For 4 colorless and 2 blue, you get a 3/2 that gives all your creatures flying. In addition, it makes your opponent's creatures lose flying, and they can't have or gain flying. Ah, what a hoser! If this guy lands in a Limited game, talk about flying being an advantage before, this is crazy. I can't imagine what all of the other archetypes will bring, but this one is definitely Limited playable. Very cool. The last cards that were officially spoiled last night are 3 temples: Enlightenment, Malice, and Plenty. Blue-white, black-red, and white-green all get their mana bases back, so be ready for a ton of white-blue-green and black-red decks. It looks like the remaining 2 temples, the black-green one and the blue-red one, will have to wait until Journey into Nyx. Sorry Golgarian Izzet fans. Tough break. We also have a quick announcement. The Manosaurus will be filming and playing in the Born of the Gods pre-release at the Vast Abyss in Wapenters Falls, New York. Our whole team is going to be there for the midnight event, and this pre-release is going to be huge. The prizes are insane. You can get all the information below, but for first place, San Diego Comic-Con Black Planeswalker set. Yeah, for the winner. That's insane. Make sure to check out their link in the description below, and be sure to join us pre-release night if you can. It'll be awesome. This is already shaping up to be a pretty cool set. We can't wait to see what comes next. What do you guys think so far? Any cards you particularly like or dislike? Let us know in the comments. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable Born of the Gods spoilers and information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus, I'm Wedge, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.